Day 2, I roll out of bed at 7:15, lace up my new exercise shoes, fill up my official water bottle emblazoned with a silhouette of Richard, and pin on my name tag. And the silhouette of Richard, which is on everything, is the angel, which is like, that's Richard's move, and it's a silhouette, so it's just like a big part of it is just his hair. Jan has already made it clear that she won't be attending any of the 7:30 a.m. Rise and Shine with Richard classes because she's on vacation. I'm one of the last ones to arrive in the Rome Lounge, the ship's main showroom, and for the first time I see the whole group assembled. 224 people, nearly all white women between the ages of 35 and 60, wearing colorful exercise clothing and carrying the black Richard Simmons tote bag we received last night. The tote also boasts Richard's uncanny silhouette, and also his silhouette at the closing night party, carved into watermelons, and then a huge ice sculpture. Incredible. The tote also boasts Richard's uncanny silhouette and contains an alarming number of products for dry mouth, including dry mouth lozenges, dry mouth spray, dry mouth toothpaste, and some sort of special dry mouth gel, and a tablet of pre-printed permission slips to use for your children at school. It was like a Smart and Final had just like closed down and consolidated, and somebody went in there and was like, what have we got, earrings, dry mouth products, or a belt buckle, whatever, and they just put all this stuff in a bag and everyone was carrying it around, kind of confused. The layout of the room makes it an awkward space in which to exercise, with rows of upholstered benches and immobile cocktail tables, but the group makes do, spreading across the theater's aisles and balconies, arm's distance apart, taking up the entire room. For the very prompt, there are spaces on stage with Richard. This is obviously a hot commodity and probably fills up before daybreak. At first, I didn't understand when I read in my binder that Richard would show up a half hour before every class for autographs and pictures. I can imagine him doing this for the first couple of days, or perhaps once during the first class and once during the last class, but I had underestimated his power severely. This morning, the line to talk to Richard, who is perched on the edge of the stage in black shorts, black crystal-studded tank top, stretches down the aisle about 50 people deep. I overhear someone say that a woman in upstate New York does all of his tank top bejeweling. And this was she was kind of bitter about it. Like maybe a friend of hers had the job before and now he axed her, and somebody else with a bedazzler was like, I do all Richard's tank tops. I take a seat on a bench and keep my eyes fixed on Richard. He seems genuinely happy, taking time and wrapping his arms and sometimes legs around them for pictures, or placing a hand on their arm as they speak. People bring him gifts. I watch him unfold a homemade Afghan, gush over it, hold up a framed photo, kiss someone. Jan and I were not alone with the kissing, and the first night we're on the ship, he sees us and spots our name tags as we're waiting to get into the dining room, and so he looks at the name tags, and then he just comes sprinting toward us, and I swear to God, my whole life, I will never forget what it was like to lock eyes with Richard Simmons as he's running toward me with his arms outstretched, and hugged us both, kissed us both, and it was a great way to begin the week. Jan and I were not alone with the kissing. Nearly everyone gets a kiss upon arriving at his side, and then again when leaving. Richard Simmons has probably kissed more women than Gene Simmons. When he has finally spoken and posed with, squeezed and smooched the last person in line, he grabs the microphone and walks out onto the apron of the stage. Good morning, everybody, he yells, feet firmly in ballet's first position, heels together, toes pointing out, bending at the waist. The group answers back, automatically adopting a goofy schoolgirl lilt to our voices. Good morning, Richard. It just seems like the obvious way. But it's not enough for Richard. He gets a little more shrill. I said, good morning, everybody. So we crank it up a notch. Good morning, Richard. Appeased, and without saying another word, Richard cues the sound booth and classical music swells. Richard leads us in a series of flowing, low-impact stretches. It feels really good to be doing this, to be up early and moving. And this is when I have my first of many arms over the head revelations. I realize in this moment, as I move in unison with over 200 people in the showroom of a discount cruise ship, that I sometimes go for days without even simply reaching my arms over my head. I'm sure a lot of these people do too. I think of John Gray's assertion, and I went to go see John Gray in Atlanta. So he's the Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus guy, who, as far as I can tell now, is just selling mineral supplements that he has somehow spent years developing. But he made everybody, so people are like, we're here for relationship advice. And then he made everybody in this hotel ballroom get up, and he's like, let me show you how I exercise now. This is what I do. Now, I grew up doing yoga. I made the first yoga video on planet Earth. But you know what I do now? I just shake. Everybody just start shaking. Just start shaking. Okay. We're going to go around the world. Let's go to Africa and bang on some drums. Okay. Let's go to China and bang a gong, people. Bang a gong. Just really insane. And everybody's like looking at each other, trying to follow along. So John Gray's assertion that he made during his wild, shaking, globe-hopping exercise session in Atlanta, he said that symphony conductors have the longest lifespans because their arms are always over their heads. So he just says it, and then I just put it in my book, and now, well, it's fact. The man in front of me sits down halfway through the stretches. He's winded and continues them from a seated position. He's one of the few men here, and it looks like he's with his wife. He's also one of the largest people. At about 6 feet tall, he must weigh nearly 450 pounds. And later I find out that he's in the military and is actually heading to Iraq soon. After the stretches, Richard tells us to take a seat and get out our binders. He sits cross-legged on the edge of the stage and holds the microphone low on his chest by gently pressing it between flat palms, his back very straight. Now sit up straight, everybody, he says. We're about to begin a very exciting and challenging week. And I'll be giving you a word of the day every day, and today's word is respect. Write it down. You need to learn to respect yourself before you can dream of giving respect to others. He explains the challenges of the cruise, including the cocktails, the food, the chocolate buffet. Oh, they dip everything in chocolate on this cruise, he says. They dip newborn babies in chocolate. And they're delicious. Suddenly he pops up onto his little white shoes and says, okay, everybody, now let's get on the scale. There is an audible gasp throughout the room. I'm just kidding, he says. Boy, you should have seen your faces when I said that. You were all thinking, but Richard, I haven't pooped yet. People laugh at the potty humor, but I can't, the way my mind works. I immediately force myself to envision every single one of these people in the room, toilets, purposely trying to get the poop out before they weigh in. Sorry, I know, too much information about my weird... Okay. On a dime, Richard turns serious, silently scanning the room. You know, these cruises are very hard for me, physically and emotionally. I see some of you who are in chairs who didn't need to be in chairs last year. And I want you to know that I take it very personally. He's talking about a few people who are sitting in the aisles in their motorized power chairs. It's hard for me to say this, but I just want you all to know I'm thinking about ending it this year. Gasps and cries of no and Richard go up around the room. People start chattering with their neighbors. Yes, he nods solemnly. This is the 25th cruise, and I think I should just quit. The room becomes a morgue. But, he continues, if we have a great week and if everybody works hard, I might be able to pull off another year. We erupt into cheers for the possibility, but Richard stops us cold. But I really don't think so. Dead silence again. I can't believe how easily he has everyone, myself included, in his palm. It's visceral, as if he captured the energy we created during that morning stretch and then just pulled it like taffy with his threat. I go up to the dining room for breakfast, which is always open seating. I desperately want to eat by myself, but I'm trying not to stand out. I also want to experiment with feeling like part of the group.